Well, first, we need our mojo back. Let's start with things that are really critical to the nation where we think we might be able to open without getting into a lot of trouble. I tell you, schools are a very appetizing opportunity. I just saw a nice piece in the Lancet arguing that the opening of schools may only cost us 2 to 3% in terms of total mortality. And, that's any life is a life lost. But to get every child back into a school where they're safely being educated, being fed, and making the most out of their lives with a theoretical risk in the backside, it might be a trade-off some folks would consider. We need to get industry back, supply lines. I mean, things that we can do without putting the nation at risk.
All right, so that was TV Dr. Oz saying, what we should do? We should send the kids back to school and start getting people back to work. I don't think I tell you right now that that's probably a bad idea. So now he references this piece in the Lancet, right, where they were saying, it would only add about 2 to 3% to the mortality rate overall. Oh, okay, hey, I'm willing to sacrifice those kids and the people around them, of course, just to get people back to school, man. Really? So let's do some math, right? So now currently we have about 31,000 people that have died so far in this country, right? If you increase it about 3%, that's an additional 930 deaths. And of course, it would continue to grow as the mortality rate in the country grows. Go, only an additional 900 deaths added onto the natural. Well, yeah, of course. Well, I mean, we missed out on some school shootings since schools were closed. So it all kind of balances out. Really? I mean, look, any loss of life is, of course, regrettable. But, we've got to make sacrifices. We've got to get kids back in school so we can get back to normal. No, dude. No. That is monstrous. Absolutely monstrous. Look, obviously, the big problem here is I know they're saying that kids do have a lower mortality rate, right? Than generally adults do, and elderly people, etc. But that doesn't mean they don't get sick. That doesn't mean that they don't get the virus. They can transmit the virus. Kids become carriers. And they could spread it to teachers, and they could spread it to staff, and they could spread it to their families, on and on. So you're going to have basically, if you allow this to happen, you're going to bring it back in another wave that's going to end up being worse. And so, yeah, that's problematic. And for what? For what? There's like 2 months of school left, all right, before summer. Or a little bit more, right? So even if we waited to May 1st to open up the country, that's what Donald Trump wants to do. He wants to open up by May 1st, which we're not ready, right? But you're going to do this and have kids in school for just over a month at a small cost of, hundreds of additional deaths. That's your trade-off. That's what you want to do. Come on, dude. Really? That's not a good idea. That's a disastrous idea. So naturally, social media had a strong response to this. Joe R. Says, Dr. Oz is an effing monster. Wine Woman says, we're being groomed to accept the idea of going back to work and to accept the many deaths that will follow from this foolish and heartless decision. Look, I've been saying that on the show. Not in quite that same way, much more elegant way than what I've been saying it, but it's true. They're like, sacrifice. I mean, we got to get back to work. We can't have the cure be worse than the disease. We heard that from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and a lot of these other Republicans coming out and saying, you know what, old people would be more than happy to go out and die for the economy. And turns out now they want to send the kids. Yeah, just send the kids out. I mean, they won't die as much from it, but we'll still lose some people. But get them back to school. And then get people back to work. That's what they want to do. They want to say, hey, we're not going to sacrifice, or we're going to sacrifice people so we can get the economy going. Monstrous. Absolutely monstrous. You can't actually kill an economy, right? Yes, you can slow down an economy. You can hurt an economy. But at some point, people are going to get back out after this is over, and they're going to get back to economic activities, going back to, getting back to going out, spending money at retail stores. You can rebuild an economy. You cannot bring dead people back to life unless you want a Walking Dead situation. I'm pretty sure we don't. I'm just saying, I don't. Not interested. But anyway, I know people are getting sick of their kids at home, but seriously, Dr. Oz, what are you doing? You got 4 kids. No, don't send them back to school. It's a bad idea, right? Now, Rocky Mountain Views points out, those kids may not show symptoms, but they still may be infected and infect a teacher, other kids, their parents, grandparents, etc. We need to stop thinking that kids are fine and immune, or I'm sorry, thinking that the kids are immune and that means that they're fine. But they're not. They're not. T-Gage says, Dr. Oz's new oath, do some harm. Hippocratic oath. And another user says, interesting how the call for things like this increased on the right once they found out that the virus disproportionately kills minorities. That's a great point and devastating. It does actually impact minorities in a disproportionate way. More African Americans, for example, in places like Detroit, in my state of Michigan, are massively affected by this. And their mortality rate is actually much higher than regular people, or than other people, I should say, not regular people. Look, elderly people, poor people, the disabled, it's almost as if this virus is hurting the people Republicans hate the most. Now, as for Dr. Oz is a fake TV doctor. He cannot be a real doctor. And if he is, pull them credentials, man. He and Dr. Drew, right? Dr. Drew Pinsky have been giving out terrible advice since this entire thing started. They've been giving out terrible advice and misinformation. Dr. Oz himself has been talking about hydroxychloroquine, right? And it turns out Oz and Trump are pretty close to each other, right? And hydroxychloroquine has been something that Oz has been pushing rather aggressively along with Donald Trump. Now, this is despite a lack of medical information about the efficacy and safety of the drug when used to combat coronavirus. They've been giving it to coronavirus patients, and even the doctors that have been administering it said, well, we don't really know. We haven't really seen any evidence to support that this helps some of our patients. And in fact, there is more evidence to suggest that it actually has incredibly negative side effects, especially when it comes to people that have heart issues. And so that's a problem, right? And so I wouldn't listen to this quack doctor. He's giving out obviously dangerous, callous advice, and nobody should be listening to him. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know how I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.